We left off on Pasuk Beis in Vayero. He lifted his eyes and he saw there were three men, Nitzavim Molov, were standing opposite him. Why is it important for us to know what the number was? And if there are two men, what's three? So Rashi cites the Chazal. One of them was to inform Sarah that she was going to have a son. One of them was to destroy Sodom. The other angel was Raphael. He came to heal Avram from the circumcision. An angel, regardless of its capacity, an angel only does one agency. Does not do multiple agencies. What's the proof of this? The parsha refers to them in the plural, Vayochlu, Vayomru, Elov, Ubisura. But when it came to inform Sarah she was going to have a child, Nema Vayoma Shuv Oshuv Elecha. It speaks in the singular, Ubaficha Sodom Omer, Kilu Ucha Lasus Dover. Regarding destruction of Sodom, he says, also in the singular, I cannot do anything. Levilti Hofchi, Raphael Ripo Es Avram, Raphael, who was the angel who was sent to heal Avram, Halach Mishom Lahatzles Lot. He himself went to save Lot. It's within the same realm of agency. It's to benefit a person. One of the angels' purpose was to save Lot. The Torah tells us, if previously it tells us that he was sitting at the entrance of the tent looking to see if there are any wayfarers coming, it would have been enough to say, Vayoretz the Krosom. He ran towards them. I mean, if he's at the entrance of this tent, it's obvious he's running from the entrance of the tent. So what does it have to repeat again? Vayoretz the Krosom Pesach Oel. He ran to them from the entrance of the tent, Vayishtachu Orza, and he prostrated himself. So there's a Sefarno over here. The Sefarno explains, Hischil min ha-pesach loretz l'chvodam. When he ran, it's not, he walked, and then as he got close, he began running. From the moment he noticed them, he ran. Why? Hischil min ha-pesach loretz l'chvodam, ki azrizus l'dova yora al chashivuso. Anything we do with alacrity indicates the importance of what we're acting quickly to be able to accomplish. As it says, Moshe hurried and he prostrated himself. So here, to indicate to these wayfarers to what degree he values them, he doesn't want to leave a moment too soon to be able to address their needs. Therefore, Torah is emphasizing the point, it's not he walked and as he got closer, he hurried towards them. But rather, from the moment he noticed them, he ran immediately. That's the value of mentioning the Pesach oil. Okay? So over here, there's a beautiful Midrash. Midrash tells us, Vayar Vayorotz, he saw them and he ran. L'krosam, so the Medrash says, Hischil damamil l'taftef. As he ran, the blood of the wound of the Mila began dripping. was an open wound. In the merit of your life, in the merit of the blood dripping from that circumcision wound, I will have mercy on your children regarding two aspects of blood. And I will actually, Ipora, I will take reckoning from their enemies. Shnemar, Vova Olayach, Verech Mispases B'Namoyach. Pasuk Yecheskel, and this pasuk we said every bris. I passed over you and I saw you wallowing in your bloods. This is that time of Makas Bechoros. Tax Bechoros, where Hashem killed all the firstborn of Egypt. At that moment, there were two bloods that were in our merit. We had the blood on the lintel and the doorpost of the Korban Pesach, and also it was the blood of the Milah. That before they brought the Korban Pesach, all Jews had to be circumcised, because in Egypt they were not circumcised. So I'm giving them the merit of the two bloods to display that, which corresponds to the driplets of blood that dripped out of your wound, and that will actually allow them to be able to destroy their enemies. Shenemar, Zedamilo, the Yar Vayitz Likritzon, then it says, in the merit that the word ritzo, running, you ran, you hurried. In the merit of the running, at time Matan Torah, I will be the equivalent of that, 3 runnings. Where do we find Avram ran in 3 areas, 3 times? It says, he saw them and he ran towards them. When he went to prepare the calves for the tongues, it says he ran to the boker, to the cattle, to slaughter them. Mapar lebor of Sinai. What's the measure for measure? Shenemar vayom Hashem b'Sinai bo. It says Hashem came when He gave us. He came from Sinai. V'zorach miser lomo. Afir mahar poron. He came from many directions. Omar atomat lu yukach. You said take some water. Ani nosin v'onech mitzvah Pesach. In the merit of that, I give you the mitzvah Pesach. Shenema v'yikho ilecho. V'yikho lehem ishser. And it goes, all the various details of this hospitality we merit in the future as a Jewish people. In the merit of the blood dripping, the driplets of blood dripping out of the wound, I will give you 2 mitzvos, which entail blood, Milah and Pesach. What is exactly the Midah Keneged Midah? Right? What is it all about? Evidently, it says when he ran, the wound started to bleed. What did that indicate? It indicated total sacrifice, that he was totally oblivious to himself. All that mattered was that he is able to get to these wayfarers to be able to achieve his objective, as we mentioned, to turn him into monotheist, because he was pained that every moment of delay is a chil Hashem, because he's not able to engage in his outreach. So the running was for the sake of what? To address the chil Hashem sooner, to turn them into monotheists. So the pain and the blood was for what reason? Was all kavod shamayim. But why did he run? So as we said just now with the Sefarno, we mentioned yesterday, why did Avram prostrate himself before these 3 wayfarers? I mean, Avram himself is, firstly, he's 99 years old. He's no youngster. Secondly, he's a man who has tremendous renown. These are wayfarers. He's a man who has tremendous wealth. you accord respect, but to prostrate yourself, I'm negated to you. So we explained that he wanted to show them that there's some innate specialness about them. They have certain innate worth, and therefore they're worthy of this level of respect. And what would you attribute it to? And we said it can't be attributed to anything but that, because in terms of their wealth, Avram doesn't need their wealth. In terms of to ally with him, they don't need it. He doesn't need it. He just defeated the four mightiest kings. So the only reason why he's doing all this, it's clear there's no ulterior motive, other than it's in their best interest, because he sees something special about them. And this is to allay any fears, and there should be no level of distraction, that he should fully embrace whatever he offers, as long as it's something which is rational. And Avram, when he presented, it was very rational. So he had to dispel any ulterior motives, it's for them. So the running from the entrance of the tent, it says even from the entrance, to show how special they were. So the running was part of that sacrifice. Go a little slower. You're able to accomplish it. It'll take a moment longer. A moment later, you'll engage. No. Of any moment, which is not soon, is a moment too late. So the reason why he bled was only because of this overwhelming need to address this issue, to show them to what degree he valued them. That's why he bled. That's why he ran. All this. And as a result of that, what was the payment? As we said, the pain, what did it produce? They would have come in angel form. Why did they come in human form? And therefore it manifests itself in hospitality. He offered the shade of his tree, we had the Anei HaKavod. He offered the water, we had the Be'er Shel Miriam, we had the wellspring of Miriam. He offered his bread, therefore we had the man. And because of all these various gifts which Hashem gave us, the Jewish people were able to be spiritualized at a much more advanced level. Due to the sacrifices of Avram, that he sacrificed purely for Kavod Shamayim, to immediately address the Chil Hashem, to establish one or two more monotheists. That's what we see from this. Vayomar, and he said, this is Avram speaking. Now there's a question whether this next word, now how do you say master in the singular, Adoni? And how do you turn it from singular to plural? You put a komatz, right? So there's a question, this word over here, is he referring to masters? He's referring to all of them? Or is he speaking to Hashem? So there's a question in the Gemara whether this is Shem Kodesh. Is this the name of Hashem, one of the holy names of Hashem? Or it means, it's ordinary, it means my masters. So there's a question, who is he speaking to? Vayomar. So let's talk about, let's say it means masters. Please, if I find favor in your eyes, I'll no sabor me'alavdecho. Do not pass and leave your servant. So if he's speaking to these wayfarers, how is he referring to himself versus them? He's their servant. You understand? The man himself is the most accomplished person in the world, with the greatest amount of renown, wealth, record, everything, accomplishment. And he says, please don't leave the presence of your servant. That's what he's referring to himself. It's evidently, it's like mind-boggling. Evidently, he sees something and understands something which they don't understand. And that's why he's referring to himself as their servant. Again, this is part of giving him that level of understanding of to what degree he values them. This is after prostration.
So
and he's saying, well, one second. And he's saying, what is chen? Chen means I'm undeserving only because you find, that means you're doing chanina. What's the difference chanina? Chanina means it's matnas chinam. I want you to do me a favor, although I'm undeserving of this. This is the way he's making the request. They should accept his hospitality, although he's undeserving of the honor to be able to accommodate their needs. But if they find charm in him, chen, that he's worthy of this, but it's purely chanina, then they should accept his hospitality. That's what he's actually saying to them. The other way, the word, if it's holy, if it's the name of Hashem, he's asking Hashem, please don't leave my presence. Because we started off here, God came to pay a sick visit or to be involved with him. All of a sudden, he's becoming distracted. He's involved with these three wayfarers, attending to their needs of hospitality. It seems to me it's a level of disrespect. How do you interrupt the conversation with God or God's presence there and go attend to something else? I'll give you an example. The king is at your door, just comes and he came to see you. And all of a sudden, the mailman has a letter to deliver. And you go and say, excuse me, I'm going to take the letter. It's total disrespect. I mean, the value of what's taking place at this moment should totally overshadow and negate anything other than this at this moment. How do you even consider interrupting the visit of God for any other reason? But Avram did. So what is the takeaway from this? The Gemara says Shabbos. From here we learn Gedola hachnosus orchim yosem mikablos pnei Shechina. That hosting, doing an act of hospitality, has greater value than engaging with the Shechina, with the divine presence. Because otherwise Avram wouldn't have done this. So that Avram interrupted God's visit to attend to the needs of the wayfarers, that clearly tells us that the value of hachnosus orchim, hospitality, has greater value than receiving the divine presence. How do we understand that? Hachnosus orchim, you're in the middle of a conversation with God. The king comes to see you and says, except I have to go see the mailman. So evidently it's more than going to see the mailman. But the question is, but how do you interrupt how do you interrupt and get distracted and allow yourself to attend to something seemingly less? Evidently it's more. How can it be more? So the way I explained it at one time was, person runs a company, chairman of the board, and he has a senior vice president. And he calls him up, he says, could you please come to my office? He says to either the owner of the company or the chairman, he says, I'm busy right now, I can't come. He says, what do you mean you can't come? Well, I ask you to come, evidently it's more to come. He says, right now I'm engaged with our most important client, and the deal we're going to close will bring tremendous profit to the company. So the chairman says, oh, if that's the case, of course you should do that. When you finish, you come see me. So that he engaged with these people, what was the value of that? It was exactly for Kavod Shamayim. Therefore, since this Achnosis Orchim, the objective was Kavod Shamayim, this is not a disrespect to interrupt the conversation. But evidently, it's not sufficient. So it says, there's something about hospitality. It's a hospitality issue. It's not just because of the objective, right? It's clear from the words. Seemingly, you have to say that since we see Olam Chesed Yiboneh, that the characteristic which was displayed by Hashem when He created the world was Chesed. Whenever you do Chesed, it's a reflection that you're acting with the persona of God in that particular moment that has special value. Even if the objective is not, I mean, if the objective is sin, of course, definitely not. But if it has any merit or value, which gives that person a sense of value, then that itself has that special value. Without the objective of kiruv. The Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin that Achav was a very evil king. He killed the prophets. It's only due to Avadia Novi, he saved prophecy because he took 100 prophets, put 50 in one cave, 50 in the other cave. It was Tamil Leon Novi. And he had the Nevi Baal, he had the prophets of the Baal, and when they would bring sacrifices for the Baal, they were temple of idolatry, and there were sacrifices brought in the Beis Hamikdash, the smoke of the idolatry would intermingle with the smoke of the korbanos that were brought in the Beis Hamikdash. You hear what's going on over here? It's like the ultimate level of disgrace. So the Malachim, the angels, come to Hashem and say, this is too much to tolerate. We're going to rain in on him for the sake of your honor. We're going to kill him. Hashem says no. That because his bakery goes 24 hours a day and his commissary is preparing food for needy 24 hours a day, his level of chesed is so unusual, therefore that protects him. Because he's doing chesed. It's Gemara in Sanhedrin, in Chelik. That because he has such an outstanding level of chesed, which is unheard of, therefore that protects him. What is that? What's the chesed? Well, who is the guy? He's a bad man. But because he's displaying that characteristic, which is the attribute of chesed, that's special. So I'm saying that's Gadol Hachnos Tzorchim. Anybody who actually displays that characteristic, which is the basis for creation, that itself is special. If people are in need, you accommodate the need, and you're not in any way being an accomplice to anything which is sinful, then it's something special.
Rabbi, it almost sounds like that a Ben Adam L'Chavero is so treasured by Hashem, it's almost more important than your relationship in Adam Makom. That's how I'm hearing this. It's like it's so vital to God that we treat our fellow person with respect and value, than more so than.
Okay, to bring a proof to what you're saying, and Rashi cited this, we find that the Dor Hamabel, they were destroyed. Why would it says what was the final nail in the coffin? Because of thievery, stealing. The Dor HaFloga, the Tower of Babel, they were united to go against God, to rebel against God. There's Beidon Lamokum. God did not destroy them. He just dispersed them. So seeming here, direct the front against God. I'm here going, you want to go to war against God. Destroy them. That's Beidon Lamokum. But since there was this unity among them, was it says Sof Achas, they were all united, and there's a cohesiveness, therefore he did not destroy them. So we see over here that Bein Odom Chavero, what value that has. Therefore, he did not destroy them. That's Rashi cites the Chazal there. Why the Dor HaMabel he did destroy, and Dor HaFloga he did not destroy. In addition, there's a famous Yerushalmi, which the Chofetz Chaim cites, that Achav, when his soldiers went to war, there were never casualties. David HaMelech, when his armies went to war, there were casualties. So Yerushalmi asks why. Achav, they were all pagan. He turned them into idolaters. David Melech Yisrael, he was a Rosh Hashiva. The Jews observed mitzvahs, studied Torah. So why were the casualties? So the Yerushalmi answers because by Achav, they were not medabri lashon hara. They didn't speak lashon hara. In David, the people did speak lashon hara, and because they spoke lashon hara, that's the reason why they were casualties. Where do we see in Achav's time they didn't speak lashon hara? Where do we see this? Because Avadia, who was a courtier in Achav's court, when Achav didn't know that, and he was a prophet, and as I said, when Izebel, his wife, said we're going to kill all the prophets, and they hunted prophets, he took 100 prophets, he put 50 in one cave, 50 in another cave. And because of that, prophecy continued. How's it possible putting 100 people in concealment and they have to be fed? How does word not get back to the king? Somebody should say a word. It was mum. Nobody said a word. So we see from there the level of Bein Odom Chavero, that if anything should affect anybody else on a personal level, mum, nobody said a word. So we see to what degree they kept, their speech was not negative, therefore that protected them. That's the Bein Odom Chavero. And because in David's, regardless, the Bein Olam Mokum was so exceptional, but because there were breaches in the Bein Olam Chavero, that's why there were casualties when they went to war.